Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to begin with the next unit, unit number 7 on page number 7.1. This unit is comprises of 10 marks in the boards. There is a sure shot 6 plus 3 plus 1 mark question, 3 questions normally. This particular unit consists of 3 chapters, 7, 8 and 9 of this book which you are following. This unit is totally new for you, so you need to pay a lot of attention to the commencement of the unit. All the 3 chapters are interconnected and interlinked. In this unit, we're going to understand 2 important concepts on the basis of which this entire unit is based. The 2 concepts are aggregate demand and its related concepts, and in related concepts you have aggregate supply also. So aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Let us first understand what is aggregate demand in detail. Aggregate demand is basically the total value of goods and services which all the sectors of an economy are planning to buy at a given level of income during a period of time, which in simple English means aggregate demand is a total demand for all the goods and services in an economy at a given period of time. But obviously, you know, the demand will only be created if there is some sort of spending. There are 4 sectors in an economy which incur an expenditure. We have done this in the last unit. There are 4 sectors which incur an expenditure. The 4 sectors are namely households, firms, government and rest of the world. जब ये चारों सेक्टर्स खर्चा करते हैं, एक्सपेंडिचर करते हैं, demand in an economy increases. So now we are going to understand what are the 4 components of aggregate demand which increase the demand of an economy at a macro level. The 4 components of aggregate demand are 1. The private consumption expenditure, which we represent as C. Private consumption expenditure is basically the expenditure which is incurred by households. This is the expenditure incurred by households for the consumption of their goods and services. This expenditure depends upon the disposable income of the household. Disposable income मतलब that income जिससे purchasing power is determined. जैसे जैसे disposable income बढ़ेगी, but obviously consumption बढ़ेगी तो aggregate demand भी बढ़ेगी. The second component is investment expenditure. Investment expenditure is normally done by all private firms on the purchase of goods and services. इससे क्या होता है, जो कैपिटल स्टॉक है फिजिकल गुड्स का, दैट इज मशीनरी, बिल्डिंग, इक्विपमेंट, ये सब बढ़ेगा, इन्वेंट्री भी बढ़ेगा. सो जब तुम इन्वेस्टमेंट कर रहे हो एक फर्म होने के नाते, तो वैसे ही तुम्हारी एग्रीगेट डिमांड क्या हो रही है, बढ़ रही है. द नेक्स्ट इज गवर्नमेंट एक्सपेंडिचर. द गवर्नमेंट ऑल्सो इनकर्स एक्सपेंडिचर ईदर ऑन कंजम्पशन और ईदर ऑन इन्वेस्टमेंट. जैसे ही सरकार खर्चा करती है, कंजम्पशन बढ़ जाती है, इन्वेस्टमेंट बढ़ जाती है, एग्रीगेट डिमांड भी बढ़ेगी. ना कंजम्पशन गवर्नमेंट क्यों एक्सपेंडिचर करती है? मे बी टू मीट द पब्लिक वर्क, पब्लिक हेल्थ. तुम देखो आजकल कोरोना वायरस चल रहा है, सरकार कितना ज्यादा खर्चा कर रही है. ये सारा खर्चा डिमांड, एग्रीगेट डिमांड को बढ़ा रहा है. अगर सरकार इन्वेस्टमेंट, मान लो हॉस्पिटल सेटअप कर रही है या हॉस्पिटल इक्विपमेंट्स खरीद रही है, तो भी एग्रीगेट डिमांड क्या हो रही है, बढ़ रही है. द फोर्थ इज नेट एक्सपोर्ट्स. What do you mean by net exports? These are the goods which are produced. Exports are those goods which are produced within the country, and imports are those which we get from some other country. The difference between them is net exports. The most interesting part is net exports depends upon the foreign trade policy. The government expenditure depends upon the government policy. So the contribution made by these 2 sectors is, I won't say not high, is not very, very high as in relation to the expenditure incurred by households or the private consumption expenditure and the firms. तो अगर तुम वहां रेड में देखोगे लिखा हुआ है AD is equal to C मतलब expenditure by households, I expenditure by firms, investment, G by government sector, X minus M मतलब net exports. So देखा जाए तो aggregate demand is a total of the demand. Let me tell you one more thing interesting. AD is equal to C plus I, ये तो हमें समझ आ गया. Consumption क्या है? Is basically purchase of goods for the satisfaction of goods and services for the satisfaction of our wants. Now, if we have to show consumption as well as investment, दोनों तो change होते ही होते हैं, but if we have to show it with the help of an example, it would be practically difficult. So we take an assumption. The assumption is we assume investment to be constant. That investment to be constant को हम technical language में कहते हैं autonomous investment. I repeat, investment to be constant को हम technically कहते हैं autonomous investment. I hope that is clear. You cannot keep consumption constant because consumption तो होनी है. Consumption can never be zero. Can you see that I've made that line there? Cannot be zero. If you look at there in that schedule, let us understand aggregate demand with the help of a schedule. If you look at that schedule, we are showing income in an economy. Children, remember this is the economy as a whole. Macro है ये. If you see the income, किसी भी इकोनॉमी में इनकम जीरो है, लेकिन फिर भी उस इकोनॉमी में खर्चा तो होगा ही, क्योंकि एक बंदे को उस इकोनॉमी में जीने के लिए खाना पीना कपड़ा लेना सब कुछ चाहिए. सो लेट अस अज्यूम द कंजम्पशन टू बी 40. सो दैट मीन्स अगर इनकम नहीं है फिर भी कंजम्पशन है, उस कंजम्पशन को हम कहते हैं ऑटोनॉमस कंजम्पशन. क्या कहते हैं? ऑटोनॉमस कंजम्पशन. In technical language, autonomous consumption means consumption at zero level of income. If you look at the investment, we have assumed the investment to be 20 constant. If you see AD, what is AD? C plus I. So in the first case, the aggregate demand is 60. In the second case, when income has increased to 100, aggregate demand has become 140. When income has become 200, aggregate demand has become 220 and so on. With the same schedule, if you have to draw the diagram, you will always take the income on the x-axis because you have to show that the income is increasing over a period of time. You have to show y on the y-axis aggregate demand. Aggregate demand is the independent variable which is dependent on the income. So aggregate demand will increase when income also increases. अगर तुमने वहां There are some very important points which you need to know about aggregate demand. 1. Aggregate demand is equal to C plus I. That's very clear to you as explained. Second, जैसे जैसे इनकम बढ़ती है कंजम्पशन भी बढ़ेगी. सो कंजम्पशन हमेशा पॉजिटिव रहती है. उसी में एक पॉइंट है, देयर इज कंजम्पशन कैन नेवर बी जीरो. क्यों? क्योंकि मैंने तुम्हें बताया एट जीरो लेवल ऑफ इनकम ऑल्सो देयर इज सम अमाउंट ऑफ कंजम्पशन. राइट अगर वो ग्रे वाला पोर्शन देखोगे उसमें क्लियरली वो एक्सप्लेन किया हुआ जो मैंने बताया. थर्ड पॉइंट, द स्लोप ऑफ द कंजम्पशन कर्व इज ऑलवेज अपवर्ड. व्हाई? बिकॉज देयर इज अ पॉजिटिव रिलेशन विद इनकम एंड कंजम्पशन. इनकम जैसे बढ़ेगी कंजम्पशन भी बढ़ेगी. फोर्थ, स्लोप ऑफ ऑटोनॉमस इन्वेस्टमेंट कर्व. मैंने अभी तुम्हें बताया इन्वेस्टमेंट इज कॉन्स्टेंट. इन्वेस्टमेंट कॉन्स्टेंट होने को ऑटोनॉमस इन्वेस्टमेंट कहते हैं. ऑटोनॉमस इन्वेस्टमेंट इज ऑलवेज अ स्ट्रेट लाइन पैरेलल टू द एक्स एक्सिस. राइट? इट हैज टू बी इनकर्ड इररिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ द इनकम. उतनी इन्वेस्टमेंट तो होनी है इकोनॉमी में. लुक एट द फिफ्थ पॉइंट. जो पॉइंट था तुम्हारा टी, अगर टी पॉइंट देखोगे अपने डायग्राम में तो वो पॉइंट है एडी, वहां से शुरू होती है. उस टी पॉइंट को हम कहते हैं ऑटोनॉमस एग्रीगेट डिमांड. क्यों कहते हैं ऑटोनॉमस एग्रीगेट डिमांड? क्योंकि वहां कंजम्पशन भी ऑटोनॉमस है और वहां इन्वेस्टमेंट भी ऑटोनॉमस है. ऑटोनॉमस का मतलब होता है जो हमने इनकर करना है इररिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ द इनकम. इनकम चाहे जीरो भी होगी तो इतना खर्चा, इतनी इन्वेस्टमेंट होनी है जिसके कारण इतनी डिमांड इकोनॉमी में होगी ही. सिक्स्थ पॉइंट, एडी कर्व इज ऑलवेज अपवर्ड स्लोपिंग. क्यों? क्योंकि जैसे जैसे खर्चा बढ़ेगा एग्रीगेट डिमांड भी बढ़ेगी. नाउ वी आर गोइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज एग्रीगेट सप्लाई. सी, डिमांड इज ऑन वन एंड, सप्लाई इज ऑन द ऑपोजिट एंड. It refers to the money value of all final goods and services that the producers are willing to supply in an economy in a given period of time. एक बात याद रखना, एग्रीगेट सप्लाई की कोई खास प्रॉब्लम नहीं होती. क्यों? क्योंकि जितना प्रोड्यूसर्स प्रोड्यूस कर सकते हैं वो उतना सप्लाई करने के लिए तैयार होंगे. aggregate supply is normally expressed in physical terms. Physical term means the amount of goods and services produced, but the value at which these goods and services produce, right, the income generated by these goods and services produced after this sale will be the factor income earned. Now this income earned in the economy will be distributed among the four factors of production in the form of rent, interest, wages and profits. As we all know, we studied in national income and related aggregates topic that this total of rent, interest, wages and profits is termed as national income. So in very simple English, जितनी total production हो रही है of goods and supply, जब वो बिकता है, right, जब उसकी value होती है, जब income generate होती है, वो income is distributed among the four factors of production which is termed as national income. So aggregate demand supply is nothing but equal to national income. We denote this as Y. Y is the national income. So if you connect this to the explanation given, Y is equal to AS. What is AS? Aggregate supply. Aggregate supply is equal to consumption plus saving. अगर मैं 100 रुपया कमा रही हूँ, या तो उसमें से मैं कंज्यूम करूंगी या सेव करूंगी. If I spend 80 rupees, I'm consuming 80, I'm saving only 20. So aggregate supply is nothing but Y. Y is nothing but equal to C plus S. Children, let us understand aggregate supply with the help of a schedule and a diagram. Now, since we know that aggregate supply is equal to Y and Y is equal to C plus S, right? C plus S matlab consumption and saving. If you look at the schedule there, you have three columns, Y, C and S. In income, when the income is 0, your consumption is 40. That 40 is your autonomous consumption. This autonomous consumption is met by some dis savings, that is your past savings. मतलब जो तुम्हारे पास पैसे बैंक में पड़े हैं या तुम्हारे पास कहीं भी पड़े हैं, उनको तुम यूज कर रहे हो. सो तुम्हारी सेविंग्स कितनी कम होगी है? -40. एग्रीगेट सप्लाई क्या है? C plus S. सो 40 minus 40 0. जब तुम्हारी इनकम 100 हो जाती है, तुम्हारी कंजम्पशन 120 है, तो तुम 20 रुपीज वर्थ डिस सेविंग्स कर रहे हो, मतलब तुम्हारी पास सेविंग से यूज कर रहे हो. सो व्हाट इज योर एग्रीगेट सप्लाई? 100. The aggregate supply, the consumption and saving is represented on the y-axis because it is dependent on the income. As your income increases, your consumption and saving also increases in the same proportion. If you look at the explanation here, the aggregate supply curve is a 45 degrees line. Why so? Because the aggregate supply is obtained by adding your consumption and saving schedules together. Now this particular line makes a 45 degrees angle to the curve, which signifies that Y is equal to C plus S. Whenever you need to understand this, children, that the aggregate supply curve, which is also known as the income curve, is a 45 degrees line, which represents that any point on this particular line measures the same units on the x-axis and the y-axis. Children, I have covered two very, very important topics from page number 7.1 to 7.5. You need to understand these two topics repeatedly very well because the entire unit begins from here. And let me tell you, everything is interconnected, interlinked. अगर ये बेसिक फंडामेंटल्स तुम्हें नहीं समझ आएंगे तो आगे मुश्किल हो जाएगी. My idea to do the entire unit from the book is, क्योंकि बुक तुम्हारे पास है, एक एक लाइन तुम पढ़ सकते हो, तुम ऑडियो वीडियो ऑन कर सकते हो और साथ साथ एक एक लाइन पढ़ो और जैसे